All right. We should be here. Let's get to.
Is there tension between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden?
Well, I think first and foremost, when you think about tensions between a president and the vice president, you've got to think about January 6th when President Trump let his supporters chant, "Hang Mike Pence." And Mike Pence doesn't even support President Trump's campaign.
I understand that,
cycle.
Ian, but to answer my question, is there tension now between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden?
Well, look, I think that when...
See, what's going on, y'all? They're pointing out something that I've pointed out years back, months ago, again, and then I pointed out on the last show how Joe Biden really doesn't really like Kamala like that. I wouldn't even go as far to say he doesn't like her. I don't think he trusts her like that, and I guess this is showing it because I don't see him at her rallies. I've never heard him publicly, like he did at first, but like you don't see him endorsing her as much anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't say that's awkward, but obviously that is kind of awkward. They're supposed to be a team together, and basically she's filling in for him, I guess, because he's not going to be running. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be running, this year. So I guess it's all.
Vice President Harris is out there on the stump, and she's answering voter questions, and she's answering questions from reporters like Brett and yourself every day, and she's answering the question to say, I'm running as my own candidate.
I want to raise this with Julie Manchester, the Hill national political reporter. We've also got Doug Schoen, the former Clinton advisor, Democratic strategist. So, Doug, end it with you and get your thought on this reported friction here and that they're not necessarily all on the same page. I don't know where it starts and where it stops, but that it's bumpy. Is it?
It is something. I mean, Ian Sams basically confirmed to you, Neil, that this is a real problem because Biden's ratings on the economy and overall are about 42%. She's been unable to distinguish herself. And there was the contretemps last week with Governor DeSantis, where she said he was effectively playing politics, and President Biden said he was very cordial. So I think there is tension developing. I think it's hurting the Democrats in a close race. And I think that what you heard in that very revealing interview is that the Democrats not only don't want to discuss it, they don't really know how to handle it.
Julia Manchester, one of the things I was noticing in Pennsylvania where it's very, very tight is you almost try to zero in on any little base that you could build off of. And for the Harris campaign, it's trying to go after a lot of disaffected Nikki Haley supporters. What do you think of that strategy, particularly in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, look, we have seen a number of efforts, not just from the Harris campaign, Neil, but from some outside groups, for example.
So I don't think this is an accurate stat. Once like the numbers really start crunching and coming down, they really be trying to make it seem like, oh, they're neck and neck. Ooh, you got to do something. They do this to get people to go out and go vote expeditiously. Ooh, they're neck and neck. Trump got that 0.3%, y'all. It's like, okay.
George Conway's, Never Trump group has released a number of ad buys, looking to appeal to not only disaffected Republicans and maybe Nikki Haley voters, but voters across the board. But, we'll see if it works. I mean, we see this effort from these outside groups and the Harris campaign to try to peel off as many Republicans as possible, or Republicans that, may like Donald Trump's policies, but they can't stomach him as a candidate. I don't really see evidence of that, necessarily bearing out in the polls yet, but you're right. I mean, it is a part of this strategy to really zero in on as many groups as possible. We talk about Pennsylvania, for example, you had former President Obama going to that state last week and really making a very stern, direct appeal to Black men, telling them to really up the enthusiasm and the support for Kamala Harris. This is all about a game of addition and coalition building, and this is what you're seeing at play.
Doug, you're talking about using Barack Obama.
And that's crazy that now they're not even hiding it anymore. They're not even hiding it anymore. They're telling you that Barack Obama specifically came out there to speak to Black men. They're not even hiding it anymore.
Also, that is the Harris campaign utilizing Bill Clinton more, and maybe a lot more. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it makes sense. Look, the problem the Democrats have is not only turnout in the inner city with African Americans, particularly African American males, but in rural areas. We heard the clip from Tim Walz talking before about how rural America's always had America's back, and the Democrats were going to have rural America's back. Well, that's been a real problem since the presidency of Bill Clinton, which I obviously spent 5 or 6 years of my life working to enhance and strengthen. So Bill Clinton is probably the preeminent Democrat in terms of reaching people in small towns, rural America, and they need that as well as Barack Obama. Neil, in a race this close, the Democrats need everything they can. And I think the dirty little secret is the polls are trending ever so slightly, but clearly to Donald Trump.
That's an interesting development in and of itself, Julian. I'm old enough to remember the 1980 presidential race that people find hard to believe, all these years out, that 2 weeks before the election, it was essentially a dead heat. Now, they had one and only one debate right before the election that might have turned it for Ronald Reagan.
Like, have you ever guys wondered? Have you ever guys wondered? Jesus Christ. Yeah, we about to go over that, Philip. Y'all hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button, y'all. We're about to have some fun. Have you guys ever wondered why isn't any election just a straight up blowout? Think about it. Some elections should be just a straight up blowout. It's not this big old back and forth tug of war. Why is no election just a straight up blowout like it usually is? I put a poll in the chat for shits and giggles, right? And watch how some of the numbers are going to be extreme on the polls. Why they got to turn it into a spectacle? It could be a blowout.
Reagan, but the fact of the matter of maybe polls are a lot more sophisticated today, but is there anything like what happened then, a sudden surge and doubters sort of overtaken about Ronald Reagan that might or might not help Kamala Harris, or is the momentum much like it was then for Reagan, now for Donald Trump?
I think it's hard to compare right now, Neil. I mean, we don't have, we don't have this final debate taking place in October between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We only got one debate between the two of them. And I would say that maybe in its place, we're seeing these media blitzes from Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. But to focus in on Kamala Harris, for example, look, we've seen her go on a plethora of outlets, on podcasts like the Call Her Daddy podcast with Alex Cooper to appeal to young female voters. She's going to be on with Brett Baer later this week on Special Report. That will reach a massive...
Jennifer, who you talking to? You're not talking to me. You said you get your ass sued. You said you hope CNN gets their ass sued? Because I'm not going to get sued. I'm just covering this shit. All right? But yeah, you know, we're going to go over Fox, right? And what happened with Fox, and basically what happened with Kamala's interview. We just covered her interview with Charlemagne, which was interesting not to say the least. Pretty interesting. That's what's been happening all month. That happens all the time. Wants to be censored because they don't want the truth to get out. Absolutely, USOA. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. All right, let's get back into it.
Audience, as we all know. And then, of course, you know, there's reports that she's going to...
Okay, Jennifer said, I hope Fox gets sued. Okay, my bad, sweetheart. All right, let's go.
Go on Joe Rogan's show, for example. We don't have that confirmed, but that would reach young men as well. And then, of course, Charlemagne the God, another podcaster looking to very much appeal to younger African-American men. So I think what we're seeing in place of these debates are these media blitzes. And my question is, does these media blitzes that appeal to very different types of Americans of all stripes, do they ultimately make a difference for Kamala Harris in the final stretch?
We shall see, and we shall watch. Julia, Doug, thank you both very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Now, the crazy part is Fox News is a really, really, I'm not even going to say the word, platform over the years. And over the years, they've been playing a crazy game. They've been playing a crazy game, especially with colored folk. So it's interesting to see Kamala up there because I saw a little bit of the interview, right? And I'm not even gonna lie, dude was cutting her off, even though she's been repeating herself the whole time. She doesn't really answer the questions fully. And just when she started turning a new leaf, answering the questions fully. Yeah, they said he should have been Donkey of the Day. Dude was cutting her off. So let's get into it. We got the interview right here. Let's check it out.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Oh man, he getting straight to it, y'all. Getting straight to the gems.
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number?
See, he's not letting her take the question, take the air out of it and dissuade it and then turn it into something else like she usually does. So he's getting on her the way that people thought Charlemagne should have got on her. So he's not letting her take the question and spin it. You know, so what she does is she takes the question, she analyzes it, and then spin it. Really good spin artist. So he's making sure he's on her. No pun intended about these questions. All right, let's get it.
I think it's 1 million, 3 million.
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you
he wouldn't even let her answer the damn questions. All right, let's go.
You came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number
hit the subscribe button before you
hit the Trump border policies.
Hit the
most
subscribe
significantly,
button.
the policy that required
hit the subscribe button before you hit the polls, y'all.
Illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was the bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the elite. Yes, ma'am.
I finish.
He's getting mad, y'all, and I'm not gonna lie, he's not doing a good job. He's doing a good job interviewing her, but he's not letting her finish.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish.
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and
in
they
the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go down past it. Yeah, it's like he's doing a horrible job, but on the back end, he is asking the questions we want to know, but he's like fucking it up, trying to be on her like that. What's going on, L. Nixon? Shout outs to my bro, L. Nixon in the building. Pass the $40 in the building also. Let me know if you guys want the link so you guys can come up and critique this with me. We need at least 2 to 3 supporters, y'all. Our goal is to reach 5 supporters on today's show. Please look out for the cookout. You said, how long did her answer have to be? Yeah, she irritated like hell, L. Nixon. So let me tell y'all her strategy. Any psychologist will tell you this, right? What she's doing is she's taking in the question by repeating it, taking the air out of the question, right? And spinning it, and then going into a completely different topic that wasn't discussed, you know, or spins it back around on what she's doing. All right, so let's go. And I'm wondering too, like, why didn't Joe Biden, why isn't he caping for her as much? It's what I told you on the last show. Some more of the same, family. Let's get it.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl, which is a scourge affecting people of every background.
Now, how do we know fentanyl is coming from immigration? How do we know that? How do we know? And the funny thing is that the government be importing all these drugs. But let's get it.
Graphic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And
I'm letting her answer the question.
Democrats.
But let me just finish.
6 Democrats vote.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it.
Her strategy is to take it, twist it, and then turn it back on Donald Trump. Take it, twist it, and then turn it back on Donald Trump. And let me tell y'all something. Did you know the Republicans only really had 4 years in office in the past 12 years? Democrats been in office for 12 years. A decade.
Because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that American people want to have. And what they want are solutions. And they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
But actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday, campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President.
Shout outs to L. Nixon. Thank you, bro, for getting the show started off right with the support. Shout outs to L. Nixon dropping the huge $5 on the Cash App. Make sure you guys hit the like button and support. Let's get it. Let's go.
Wendy?
Thanks, Chuck. We're standing here in front of the Olympic Liquor Store in Queens, where scores of African Americans have been lined up for hours. We spoke to a few of them earlier. Ladies, may we get a word?
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
Yeah, man, I could not imagine getting lectured from her. She reminds me she reminds me of I don't know why, but she reminds me of a crazy principal. She reminds me of a crazy principal. I don't know why. She reminds me of a super crazy principal. Shout outs to my brother from another mother in my own lane, dropping the humongous $20 on the Cash App, Jesus Christ, and sponsoring today's show. Oh man, let me drop this link. God damn, hold on. You guys can come up. Let's chop it up for a second. We're gonna play the whole Fox interview. CNN done winning. A whole bunch of people winning. I gotta fix the Wi-Fi. Give me 1 second, y'all. Hold up.
Wendy?
Thanks, Chuck. We're standing here in front of the Olympic liquor store in Queens where scores of African Americans have been lined up for hours. We spoke to a few of them earlier. Ladies, may we get a word?
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
All right, let's go. Let's get into it. So let me know in the comment section. Shout outs to In My Own Lane. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you as always. Let me ask you guys in the comment section, because a lot of people were saying that they were being unfair to Trump. It was a little bit more structured. Do you believe that this guy, I forgot his name already, god damn it, that's interviewing Kamala, is he being too hard on her? Or is he asking the right questions, but he's not really letting her answer it? And is that a good thing? Because I told you her strategy. She's going to blame it back on Trump. She's going to talk about what she's done, not really answer the question. She's going to filibuster, and she's going to intake the question and spin it some type of way. So even though he's cutting her off and not letting her answer, is he right by doing that? Because are you tired of hearing her repeat herself? Let's go.
It was a policy decision in the early part of your administration.
Brett, okay. Thank you, guys. Brett Baer.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days.
I got you.
So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions.
See, she's not really trying to stay on the subject. She's not really trying to stay on the subject. I mean, it's a fucked up subject. You kind of don't want to stay on it. But it's the accountability thing. She said that the Republicans got to be accountable, and so should the Democrats. The Democrats should be accountable too. They've been in office for 12 years. Philip said, yes, he's right, because we want answers, not filler words to grandstand. L. Nixon said, no, she's been vague on her proposed policy, and it's late to the campaign trail. She's been hiding and ducking hard interviews. Now she's under pressure.
Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need...
Carla West says this is important. It shows what she's really about. It's really sick she brought all the illegals and give them everything while America suffers.
I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett. Well, that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90-plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
Now, the brothers are sitting up here endorsing Kamala and trying to call her Mamala, like she's a mom. Like this is American's mom. Morgan, I think Diddy's already in jail, sweetheart. Lola said Trump had the lowest numbers with the border. Kamala gave illegals the money, and now our own country is paying the price. My brother L. Nixon says, wasn't immigration one of the first things Biden changed when he got in office? It was more strict before that. Carla said, we need more judges. Carla said, we need more judges. No, we need our leaders to protect our borders and American citizens. Yes. But see, they're trying to get new people into the United States that will believe in the American dream. You know, as Americans, we're spoiled. You know, we're not trying to go back to a physical office no more. We like the remote work. Shit, fuck it. You're not finna pay us minimum wage. We know how much that shit costs, and it's hard to live. You're not finna fucking, you know. And then also, too, the dirty secret that they let out is that they need the birth rates to go up. Oh, yes, they need the birth rates to go up. Y'all hit the subscribe button before you hit the poll. The question on the poll is, who will win the election? 23% says Kamala. 65% says Trump. 3% says, well, 2% says Cornel West. 10% said, y'all funny, Kanye West. 81 votes in, y'all. Make sure you hit the subscribe button before you hit the poll, and don't forget to like the video, hype up the video. Let's go. It's Player Talk. Hit the Cash App, support the show. Let's get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to...
Well, I said the same thing, Phil. I said if she gets in office, we're absolutely going to war, because they're going to play with America at that point. And she gonna come up there and we need to go to war. We need to go to war. She gonna tell us we need to go to war. Did you know more wars been start under women's rules than men? If she gets into office, America is going to get played with. That's the chink in the armor. They're going to feel they need to play with America. Real talk.
Apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
All right, you guys are getting the chat going. Okay. L. Nixon said they want to secure a group of people who will keep the Democratic vote steady absolutely. And that's what all the trinkets are for. Hey, we gave you this. You know what to do. We gave you this. You know what to do next come around. The Democrats been in office for 12 years, y'all. With one little 4-year Trump. And you can't tell me Trump ruined 12 years of work in 4 years. That's bullshit. You know? L. Nixon is absolutely correct with this statement. Absolutely. Right, Lala. All right, let's go. Y'all hit the subscribe button before you hit the poll. Let's get it.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career
in the Heartbreak Hotel
going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American.
Well, see, we talked about that, Carla, and shout outs to Lala. We talked about that. A lot of women are not voting for Kamala because she's a woman. And we talk about everything on this show. I am a part of the manosphere. We talked about patriarchy and matriarchy. A lot of people think women want matriarchy when women want patriarchy. And the funny part is that women believe in patriarchy more than men. Women love each other. They like to stick together. They have a hive mindset. But they're not going to work for each other. They're not going to have no other woman over them telling them what to do for the most part. Could they start off like that? Yeah, but they're not going to do that. Like, come on now. And then we're safe under a patriarchy. That's where those deals come from. You know, they're not about to play alpha woman games with other women. And that's what surprised a lot of people when a lot of women didn't vote for Hillary. And it's crazy. Like nowadays, you have like the hoteps. You have regular people. You have racist people. You have feminists. You have all different types of people now that got to choose for the lesser evil in America and got to vote for Trump. So there's a lot of women that's going to vote for Trump. They just won't openly say it. And when Kamala does stuff like this and gets gutted like this on Fox, man, this makes people think twice. It's like, damn. But a lot of women, they're going to be swing voters. A lot of women, I'm telling you, they'll say they're not going to vote for her. But when that pamphlet gets put in front of them, they're going to be like, oh, well, let's see what happens. You know? So don't really look at these numbers that you see that they're posting. They're you know, because it's a blowout. Most elections are blowouts. They're not this whole neck and neck Super Bowl game. They're blowouts. And politics hasn't really caught up to technology. I mean, it uses technology, but it hasn't caught up to, like, we see what you're doing. You know we see you, right? You know? But it is what it is. Now, if you want to throw a monkey wrench into politics, that's one thing. Or if you want another puppet of the state, that's another thing. But like I said, if you guys are going to vote for Trump, and even I've said this, Trump can't stop the inevitable. Because it's really the election after him, whatever happens at this point. He can only slow down what's already going to happen. He can't stop everything, but he can slow down what's already going to happen just a tad bit to give you a breather to get your, to get your mind together about what we really want. Player talk. Let's get it.
American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
Now, he wild as shit for this. He wild as hell for this. He made sure he played the commercial. I ain't gonna lie. Whoever put this segment together was playing a big game of gotcha. Because he made sure he had her right there talking to another woman saying that, hey, we're gonna make sure every trans get their surgeries. So she releasing a whole new subgroup of humans. Y'all pay attention.
For prisoners. For prisoners, every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed.
So you know what's going to happen? Look, now she tried to throw Trump in there. Like, are y'all really trying to? She's like promoting Trump, high key. And shout outs to Young Jay. He came up with a term called Trump derangement syndrome. So let me tell y'all something. Are y'all finna listen to the rest of your presidency, listening to this woman blame shit on Trump? Y'all been in office for, and y'all keep saying 3.5 years. They've been in office for 4 years now. Hell no, I didn't know that, Carla. God damn. That's crazy. What's going on, Carmen? So, you know, people are going to be going to jail just to get those surgeries. Loophole.
You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries.
You know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
I wouldn't call you a hillbilly, Carla. We country. We country. You said, hell yeah, I'm tired of them beating the same punch. Yeah, it's like, can you please talk about politics without Trump, please? You don't hear Trump talking about her like that, but every single one of them, Trump. Then you go to the vice president, Trump. Then Obama, then they wheel Obama's old ass out. Trump. Then they wheel somebody else out. Trump. It's like, God damn.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker,
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people
inflation.
Now, she said the same thing. Yeah, everything revolves around Trump. Right. Now, she said the same thing on Charlemagne the God. You know, she went up there and just repeated herself when she was talking to Charlemagne the God. So it's like she's reading a script. I can't even lie. She's sticking to the script. She came from a middle-class family, y'all. She came from a middle-class family. Philip said, that's funny because it's so true how they try to pull out the old guard that we're problematic. Then I don't want to see Obama either. Yeah, Obama, he was supposed to get black men in order because, you know, black men are kids. We're political children. Uh-oh, Daddy Obama's coming. And then you know what I don't like, and I've been hammering this in for years. Why the fuck they keep trying to associate black people with weed? Oh yeah, I'm gonna give you more jobs, and then we're gonna make marijuana. Like, why? We don't want that. Black people don't want to be the face of weed. White people love weed. Americans smoke the shit out of weed. It's not just black people. Why the fuck they keep trying to sedate us with weed? We're gonna give you marijuana. Don't you like that, Negro? We're gonna give you some marijuana. Why you keep giving no? Why you keep associating us with weed? I'm offended by that. And I got dreads. Let's go.
And invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward. And they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that.
Right, James.
His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had.
Shout out to L. Nixon. He said if more guys can identify as a woman so they can go to women's. Oh, shit. I didn't even think about that part. Damn, that's a good point right there. I didn't even think about that part. Because I was saying more guys will go to jail just to get the surgery. But I didn't even think about that part. Damn, that's a good point. See, and that's another thing too, man. The Democrats they be creating a loophole. They be creating loopholes that wasn't even there before. Yeah, the Boondocks would have got up and, man, look, you're right about that. What's going on, Ty? Yeah, they did fight for slavery. Absolutely, James. We talked about that. Absolutely. Yeah, he didn't ask no important questions and stuff like that. They said Charlemagne should be the donkey of the day. We're going to check in with the Breakfast Club and see if they did that. More and more BS. Absolutely. Oh, hold on. Let me get Nightbot off y'all asses. My bad. I got a racist Nightbot. My bad, y'all. Why do they always want to put the face of the black community as drug users and pushers and right, man? We need to clean up our fucking image. Well, why the fuck do y'all keep putting marijuana on us? That's the crazy shit. That's the craziest shit I've ever heard. You said who's been criminalized most when it comes to marijuana? Us. And everybody in America is smoking it. And shit, when you go to court for that shit, the judge will more likely think that you did have it. You know, you blacks love marijuana. That's the stereotype. Yeah, they try to wheel out Obama like he was going to do something. You know, you guys gotta get down there and vote, and you ladies need to convince your man to get down there and vote. And that shit is crazy. Lying like this on Al Gore's internet. Stupid as hell. All right, let's get it.
Had impact
under a Harris administration. What would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden,
I know,
and so that would be one change in terms of. But also, I think it's important to say, with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So. You're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment.
I'm not even gonna lie, and then low key, we gotta watch out for all of these assassination attempts, because 3 assassination attempts done took place, and people are just sweeping that shit under the rug. That shit ain't cool.
Assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from
I didn't want to say that, Matt, but you might be onto something.
In which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam
That
Vice
is
President, more than
turning the
70%
page.
of people
That is
tell
about turning the
pollsters-
page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person.
Why are you still talking about Donald? See, that's the problem with America. America works on the boogeyman platform. If America or people don't have a boogeyman to blame some shit on, most people can't function right. Kamala, you wore red today, but Donald wore blue. We didn't ask you about him, bitch. Goddamn. I don't mean to call her a bitch, but we didn't ask you about him. Kamala buys a Cybertruck, but Donald bought an SUV. We didn't ask you that. Lord have mercy.
Come on,
in the office.
come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president.
Jesus Christ. Let me tell y'all something. Since she's America's favorite wine mom, every time she says Trump, take a shot. If was a fifth, we all be drunk. Every time she says Trump, take a shot.
President, one, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is
going on a Trump tirade?
Half the country supporting him. Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why?
Ooh.
If he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States. Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that.
Oh my God! All right, now he, I don't know who let her go on this interview. He laid it on thick, y'all. Hold on.
That about the American people, and in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle.
Jesus Christ, man. She has diarrhea of the mouth of Donald Trump. And if you ask Trump, look, he's serious as fuck. Look.
This person who could be the 47th president of the United States. Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies,
oh my God,
he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone.
See, they don't want him back in office because he got a bone to pick with a couple of people. I didn't know Trump did an interview with them. We might watch that next, y'all. We might watch that next. Put a 1 in the chat and subscribe to the channel if you want us to watch the Trump interview next. I got one more Kamala clip, and then we'll go find the Trump interview. Let's see. We could be wrong, y'all. Let's see if we're a little bit right. We could be wrong. Let's just have that little bit of doubt. We could be wrong. Okay, one. Okay. He said, hell no. 2 more ones. Let's go.
He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
He was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to
you.
you.
That was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the president of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump, you call Donald Trump, he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that...
What's going on, D-Mac? No questions answered the whole time, and they circled it right back to Donnie Boy. Circled it right back to Donnie Boy.
Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly.
Yo, Rose, that's funny as shit. Rose said, check her for an earpiece. Obama is talking.
What he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
Let me get Nightbot out.
Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
Hold on.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he...
You better thank a union member. Yo, every single word she said had an A at the end. You better thank her.
Is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, 2 more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be
Thank you, Carla. I appreciate that, love.
our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on...
And shout outs to everybody here. You know, we make jokes and stuff like that, but I want to let you guys know. You better think. Let me stop. Let me stop. I'm not gonna tell y'all to thank a union member, but we're living in rough times these days, right? So sometimes you need a place where you can go. My bad. It's really noisy out here. I don't have my other microphone, but sometimes you need a place where you can go to at least laugh at some of the BS that you're seeing. Because I'm not even gonna lie. There's a lot of people that love our country. But to see where it has gone in the last couple of elections, it's like you got to laugh at something. Something got to give other than us. All right, let's go.
In Israel, 200 ballistic
here
missiles.
Go Nightbot. Hold on, I got Nightbot. Hold on.
What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power. That is one of my highest priorities.
Right, Milan?
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said...
Shout outs to everybody here. Y'all hit the like button. You can support the channel at $PTV888 via Cash App. That's $PTV888. That's $PTV888. We also have a coffee store and PayPal. Trying to get our super chat back. But let's get to the poll. Make sure you guys subscribe before you get to the poll. 219 votes. Who will win the election? And, you know, basically has the Charlemagne the God interview or the Fox interview swayed your vote? If you were going to vote Democrat. 20% says Kamala. 65% says Trump. 3% says Cornel West. 12% says Kanye West. Now, what's going on, Prophet of Truth? What's going on? Now, you see how this poll right here, it's a blowout? How it's 65%, 20% Kamala? See, when you want to run a campaign, you got to make the American people feel like, oh, it's neck and neck every single time. Oh, it's not a blowout. Oh, it's not over. It's not definite. So they got to make that's what I was telling you guys about the European system versus the American system. Everybody, to a certain degree, wants a ribbon for doing something. So what they did was they made voting all-inclusive to you know, stop uprising and disobedience among the people. So they can't show you that it's a blowout if you understand what's going on.
Iran, if that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel. Right. I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that is
proxies.
So she's telling you right now that she's going to give more weapons to Iran and send more support and money to Iran, to Iran. She's telling you right now that it's better that America maintains its relationship with its quote-unquote allies instead of helping out the American people. Interesting.
And my commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who
and now she runs it back to Trump. See, it's just say, bro, we would be drunk right now. It's the same strategy. Back to Trump. Back to Trump. She's promoting Trump more than Trump is promoting Trump. Back to Trump, y'all.
Who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration that
Iran regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches. Not to mention how Donald Trump has
all of this money
has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers.
Hamas
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision that they feel.
Who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say.
There are a lot of things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do.
And that's why we invited you here to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap.
Well, I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.
That's crazy. That's nuts. Every time he asks her a question, but you know Trump, but Trump did. What's going on, Misha? Good morning. You know Trump, you know Trump. You got to take a shot every time Kamala says anything about Trump. Because we all finna be drunk. We all finna be D-runk. All right, let's get to this Fox 5 analyst.
Donald Trump taking a jackhammer to a hostile reporter, vigorously defending his tariff plan and other policies while speaking at the Economic Club or Chicago, or ECOC. It's an interview that, by the way, Kamala Harris refused to do when invited. She turned down the ECOC.
To me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. And it's my favorite word. It needs a public relations firm.
That is going to have a serious effect on the overall economy.
I agree. It's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It must be hard for you to, spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong. The higher the tariff, the more likely it is that the company will come into the United States and build a factory in the United States so it doesn't have to pay the tariff.
People are betting that your policies are going to drive up debt, they're going to drive up inflation, so they're going to drive up interest rates. Are the investors wrong?
Yeah, I had 4 years, no inflation. Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of California.
Newsom.
He signed Newscom, I call him.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've been correct.
Good to see Piers Morgan doing well. All right. So, Jesse, whenever I used to be against tariffs, and then I realized I fell into that prison of two ideas, where it's bad or it's good, but actually tariff is like a tool. Can you explain to us when tariffs are good and when they're bad? And then, Harold, feel free to interrupt him because I know you disagree. I want you two to hash this out because nobody cares about tariffs until they care about them.
I cede my time to you.
Okay, I'm going to talk tariffs, and this is the last time I'm talking about it for the rest of the week. I doubt he's going to put tariffs across the board on every single import. But what he did during the last administration is he threatened tariffs. He did it against Mexico, he did it against Canada, and then we renegotiated NAFTA. And that's basically you come out strong with a big gambit and it shores up your negotiating position. He did it with the Japanese. He did it with the South Koreans. And then we got 2 bilateral trade agreements with those countries on our terms. He did it with the Chinese, first president to do that in a very long time. Joe Biden kept those tariffs on. The European Union just slapped tariffs on Chinese electric cars. So now we both have tariffs on Chinese EVs, so they can't dump cheap EVs into the United States and crush our industry. That's smart. Now, tariffs aren't a silver bullet. I don't want Harold to put words in my mouth. I'm not the...
And that's crazy because you know what? Americans may prefer that. Americans may prefer that. But anyway.
Tariff man that Trump is. But if you want to pay down debt, and if you want to shore up Social Security and Medicare, I'd rather do that with tariffs than tax hikes. Because at least with tariffs, you have a choice which product you're going to buy. You can buy American and you can shore up Social Security and Medicare. Or if they just raise your taxes, you don't have a choice at all. And don't give me anything about economists, Harold, because economists, as you know, have predicted 9 out of the last 5 recessions.
You know,
that was an economist joke.
Tell by the
Here's a good one.
uproarious laughter.
Thank you.
All right, Harold, I go to you. You heard his argument. It's not necessarily a Swiss Army knife. It has a tool that can be used, in various places as a negotiating tactic. Seems reasonable to me.
I give Jesse some credit on learning this issue, and I think the way he started it is where I will just conclude. Tariffs have an inflationary push on anything you put on them. Now, your argument that you don't do it, you do it selectively, you don't do it with the broad sweeping brush that President Trump often sounds as if he wants to. And I think today he said he would use it as a negotiating or bargaining tool as he thinks about things. But one thing we know for certain, if you put tariffs on things, it does drive the prices of things up here. But to your credit, the one thing that I didn't hear President Trump ask Vice President Harris in their debate, which I think would have been a legitimate question, and she should have had the answers. Why did you guys keep some of our tariffs that we had in place?
Exactly.
So hold on, but some of those tariffs, Judge, as it relates to China, are goods that we don't want them to flood our market with because they're trying to undercut major U.S. industries. And in that sense, in that regard, you're right. But when he says I'm going to put 100 to 200% tariff on everything coming out of Mexico and every vehicle coming out of Mexico, that's wrong. And to your point, I assume when you say you're not going to do it in the sweeping way that he would do it, that would be one of those examples. But I won't put words in your mouth. I'd say 2 other observations, Greg, about his speech. 2 things I found most interesting, or 3. One, he said that he gave President Biden 0 inflation. I would remind President Trump, he also inherited 0 inflation from President Obama because interest rates were basically at 0 when he got into office. 2, I was surprised to hear President Trump not be able to take as strong a position as I would hope he would take against TikTok. No one in the country disputes, even those who don't know if they want to make TikTok sell or not. No one disputes that China is taking information from our children, taking information.
I don't know, that whole TikTok thing is weird. And then I saw an article recently that TikTok is being sued. So I really don't know about the whole TikTok being sued thing.
From users of TikTok. In fact, no U.S. social media company is allowed to operate in China because the Chinese presume that we're taking information from them. So
I do agree with that too, Prophet. Trump is a globalist and he encourages foreign entities to build here, but he doesn't encourage them to take over. So that's interesting too, because they do the same thing to us when we're in their countries. Yeah, y'all can build a little bit. You can't own this, you can't own that, or don't do this or don't do that. So they encourage them to build, but they said, don't take over.
Presume they're taking our information because they won't deny they are. We have a bill before Congress. It's been passed. President Biden signed it. If ByteDance does not sell TikTok to a U.S. company, TikTok will go bye-bye in the United States. President Trump said he didn't answer that question today. And finally, he talks about the country as if we're in an abyss. I'd remind everybody, we have 5 multi-trillion-dollar companies in our market. Our stock market closed at a high today. And President Trump, when he was in office, said one of the lead indicators of economic growth in our country is the stock market. We have 2 economies, the rich and everybody else. We've got to figure out how we get everybody else into being rich as well.
Harold, let me sum everything up Harold said. Boo. Judge.
Okay, I'm not an economist, but I know a few things. Okay, number one, stocks performed better under Trump than they did under Biden.
They've been a record today, babe.
Yeah, that's great. They can be a record today, but given the performance over the period of time, they're better under Trump than Biden. Okay, that was in the package. You didn't read it. Okay, the second thing is Trump made it very clear he's using the tariffs to leverage businesses to bring business into the United States so there can be manufacturing in this country. And he did it with steel when he was the president. And you are so right when you say that the tariffs they've been in existence and nobody's complained or said Biden should have gotten rid of them or Kamala Harris should have gotten rid of them. Nobody's saying boo about them. And the last thing I want to say is the real tax on American people is the spending by Congress. When Congress spends more than they take in through taxation, we end up paying for it. So you can talk about tariffs all you want, and you can buy something made by this brand or another brand. I'd rather have things made in America, end of the story. But also, you have to understand that taxes reflect the hole that the government put.
So I'm looking at this poll right now. Trump is whipping ass, on the poll. But let me check the poll that's in the chat real quick. 256 votes. Trump leading at 65, Kamala 20, Cornel West 3, Kanye West 11. That's funny. Kanye's beating Cornel. So you guys say that Trump will win the election, 65%. Jesus Christ. It's looking like what's on this map right here. Lord have mercy.
Yourself in by spending.
For someone who's not an economist, you sounded pretty good.
Hit the subscribe button before you guys hit the poll. Let's go. We're always live, so you don't have to doom scroll.
I did?
Last word to you, Dana.
Well, I think one of the things is that what Kamala and Tim Walz are saying is that the economy will be worse under Trump.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, economists are saying that, or one of the banks said it. But even Tim Walz at an event yesterday said, we can't afford 4 more years of this.
Dude.
Agree. Same. Absolutely. The one thing nobody's touched on here, 2 things. One is the energy costs. You have a coal-fired power plant in Nebraska that's going to fire back up. Why? Because Google and Meta, I think, they need it for their AI manufacturing or whatever they do with that magic wand thing that they have. But we need more energy. If we have more energy, we're going to be able to do that. You think you're going to get energy out of the sun?
Didn't Google just purchase a nuclear power plant?
Yeah, in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. In your face, Dana.
Microsoft, actually.
It's
but anyway, but thanks
for
reading
wow. Well, that was fun.
We should all read the packet.
I apologize, but
Dana,
we had to talk about
just you and I read the packet.
It wasn't in the packet. I didn't read the packet.
What's going on here? All right. Enough out of you kids. Up next, Kamala could
click here to subscribe to the Fox News.
Not even gonna lie, and then the politics is turning Fox into a dumpster fire. The politics is turning Fox into a goddamn dumpster fire, y'all. Lord have mercy.
Vice President Kamala Harris finally forced to face her failed border policies in this heated exchange with Bret Baier.
I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point.
When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before.
Trump 2024 campaign senior advisor Daniel Alvarez joins us now. Daniel, good morning to you. A lot to get to with you. So let's just start with the Trump campaign's overall reaction to this interview.
You know, it was an absolute mess for Kamala Harris, but as has been her entire campaign and her entire 3.5 years in office, she couldn't answer a single question. And because it was a, tough and fair interview, she was held to account. She couldn't talk about the border crossings under her failed administration, the fentanyl pouring in. She couldn't talk about Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungary and the deaths caused because of the violent migrant crime that's occurring, the rise in violent migrant crime that's occurring because of her failures. She didn't have answers on inflation, on the economy. I definitely understand why her staff was jumping up and down, waving to end that interview, because it was a disaster for them. It was a Hail Mary pass because she is failing and the American people are seeing it.
One specific moment stood out to me. Brett, right off the bat, pressed her on the number of illegal migrants in our country. Do you think she knows the number? In other words, do you think that the person that President Biden tasked with the border crisis knows how many illegal migrants have crossed the southern border under her watch?
Well, and we know that number is...
So a lot of people, even CNN, yay for president, right, Simon? Y'all hit the subscribe button. CNN is saying that her interview was a disaster. Her interview was a disaster. And these are people, these are Democrats. These are people from the Democratic Party. So I'm wondering what did they expect to hear from her? All right.
Tens of millions, probably 20 million plus, again, because of her open border, because of that porous border. She knows the answer, but she didn't want to say it out loud. She doesn't want to admit her failures out loud, because we know that the American people care about some key things: closing and securing that southern border so that illegal immigrants cannot invade our country, so that fentanyl cannot invade our country. They want to make sure that we can bring down inflation. They want to make sure that she can fix the economy. And she probably knows the answer, but cannot give it, because the answer is that she...
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. Since she's campaigning now, right? And she can choose what interviews she wants to take and what interviews that she wants to, she can choose what interviews she wants to take and what interviews that she wants to deny. But when she's president, there's interviews you cannot deny. So, her picking and choosing at this point is not gonna, it's not gonna really help her at this point, because it's gonna be undeniable. But she's like, oh, Trump this and Trump that. When the Democrats been in office for the past 12 years. Biden, I think Biden been faking. I'm not even gonna lie. You know what? I know guys like Biden. Biden pretends to be senile. So it disarms a lot of people because people know he's senile. Biden pretends to be senile. Biden knows how to play the game. He knows to pretend to be dumb. He's not gonna go up there and be like, these people need to be accountable and you need to be smarter than you need to, because when they start turning that blade on you, now it's like, oh shit. So she's gonna have to hit these interviews head on at some point. I guess start now.
Is failed, she is weak, and she is dangerously liberal, and only President Donald J. Trump, who did it during his time in office, can do it again.
Well, Kamala Harris often points to the bipartisan border bill and uses it as a shield during conversations about the border, but that bill was released this year, which is why Brett asked this. Listen.
Jocelyn
show,
Nungari, Rachel Morin, Lakin Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration. Do you owe those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced. This election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
What do you think about that answer? She still says that she's the solution. And also, how do you think undecided voters feel about that line of questioning in her response?
I think it's absolutely weak. I mean, she is the direct result of our open border and of those deaths. And it is devastating to those families who I have spoken to.
Also, they're putting the deaths from foreigners on Kamala because of her open borders. Okay, they putting it on her. So they're saying she got blood on her hands, but she called Trump the criminal.
Personally, to lose their loved ones, to lose their daughter, to lose their mother, to lose their sisters. And again, it is a direct result of her open border policy. The other apology she owes is to the families of the 13 service members who died from her botched Afghanistan withdrawal, where she bragged that she was the last person in the room. This interview just continued to highlight her failures and the fact that she doesn't have answers and she is incapable of leading. She doesn't deserve the promotion that she is seeking. And that was abundantly clear last night.
Yeah, she has a tremendous problem with the chronology here, to Carly's point. All these individuals came over well before the bipartisan bill, if you will, was discussed. She cannot get over that fact. She keeps going back to that fact, and it's incorrect. It is not correct. Former President Trump, on the other hand, sitting down for a town hall with Univision and Latino voters nearly 1 week after Kamala did, as he looks to expand his support among Hispanic voters. Take a listen to this exchange.
It was coming together because it was so successful. Everybody, Hispanic Americans, Black Americans, everybody had jobs. Women, men, people with high school diplomas, people without high school diplomas, people from the best colleges in the world, from MIT and Harvard, the Wharton School of Finance, from Stanford, and people with no education. Everybody was doing better. There was no division. Success will bring our country together.
You know, it's been rightly noted that Democrats right now are underperforming with the Latino voters, historically a source of huge numbers for Democrats. Did Donald Trump last night in that town hall on Univision cut even further into the Democrats' historical advantage?
I think that he absolutely did. And as you pointed out, President Trump is performing historically well with Hispanic Americans.
Kelly said, watch the congressional session where they showed the wristbands they were finding correlated to the illegal immigrants' debt to the cartel. Prophet of Truth said Biden played chess like mafia, like a mafia boss. He put the border on Kamala. He put lawfare on the, so he put a lot of, okay, I see what you mean. And he went out the back door unscathed. Biden slipped out the back door unscathed. I see what you mean. Philip said she absolutely telling us she will arm our adversaries so they can attack us. Yeah, she said she was going to send weapons to Iran. She said she's going to keep our friendships with our foreign buddies intact before she would send that money to the American people that are suffering. And you, my friend, and American people, and the people that's about to subscribe to this channel and has already subscribed. When your house blows down the street because of a hurricane, you will only get $750. And you're still responsible for your mortgage.
Americans who support his plans to lower inflation, who support his plans on the economy, and who, very importantly, support his plans for a secure border and mass deportation. Those are the key issues that the president is running on. Those are the key issues that matter to Hispanic voters. And I will tell you this, I was in the room with him. Univision vetted every single one of those audience members and said that they were undecided voters. He absolutely changed hearts and minds.
Oh, the Latinos are voting for Trump straight up. Straight up. That's a no-brainer. Vote for Trump. The Latinos are definitely vote for Trump. They're going to vote for Trump. Obama didn't come out there for the Latinas. All them people, and then who they going to send out for the Latinas? The Latinas already know who the hell to vote for. They're not fucking around. Latino women voted for Trump. She was one of the biggest reasons why Trump, they were one of the biggest reasons why Trump won. Now we got 700. Really? You say Yepers' record stands as a success. He didn't do any crimes. Laugh out loud. You said smart people call him dumb. Trump got all Biden charges put on him. Amazing. Well, the sad part is that America, and it takes personality to run a business, because not everybody can run a business, but America is a business. All bullshit aside, all of this shit is business. You know? So it's like you got to run the country like a business, sort of. Not even sort of. You got to run the country like a business. Because if anybody going to respect anything, they're going to respect business. So you got to stand on business and run the country like the business that it is. You know, a lot of us are doing a little too much, so.
In that town hall with individuals who came up to him after and said, I will absolutely be voting for you. Once they heard his responses, once they heard his priorities, he will continue to cut into what is traditionally a Democrat stronghold. And it's, again, because of his record of success. Under President Trump, my community had historic low poverty, historic low unemployment, and historically high home ownership. And it's something that we have to return to.
There was also one friendly moment, maybe a little bit of a moment of bipartisanship that is unexpected. Listen to this.
She seems to have an ability to survive. She seemed, because, you know, she was out of the race and all of a sudden she's running for president. That's a great ability that some people have.
She seems to have ability to survive.
And some people don't have. She seems to have some pretty long time friendships, and that's you know, also that's, I don't call that an ability, I call that a good thing. And she seems to have a nice way.
He called her Mystique from X-Men. She seems to have ability to regenerate. You see this shit, Carmen? She seems to have ability to regenerate like Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z. So she survived. She seems to come back like Boo and Frieza. You said the fact that Americans talk about the black vote, Latino vote, etc., shows what job the left has done to divide the people. Absolutely, Carlos. But nah, nigga, you come get a piece of this cake too. If they're gonna send Obama out for us, you know, we got to talk about it for real. You know, you got the Latino vote, you got the black vote, you got the quote unquote foreigner vote. Even the Indian people ain't voting for it. So yeah, the left has done a really big psyop on us, man. Absolutely.
There you go. So that voter asked him to name 3 nice things about Kamala Harris. So final thoughts to you on that?
You know, I think he's obviously incredible, and you know, it probably couldn't have answered
Kelly,
that.
a lot of the Democrats are super mad right now.
That question couldn't have come up with a single strength of Kamala Harris, just because of the devastation that she has caused to families across this country. But it shows the type of leader that President Trump is. He wants to unite this country. As you played in a previous clip, success will unite this country, and we were successful under President Donald J. Trump. That's what we will return to.
This is a rare occurrence, and you should probably start seeing this more now that people kind of have an idea of who the hell is going to win. But a lot of white women that are voting for Trump, they're not going to openly say it. Some will. Some don't give a fuck. But they're not going to openly say it. White women are voting for Trump. Trump got the white vote, the white lady vote. Kamala hasn't convinced enough. And you know, the funny thing is that, you know, there's a lot of people that really want to sabotage America, even Americans, you know, as voters and stuff, right? There's a lot of people that would not hesitate at the chance to see America become a train wreck. But they don't want to see the train wreck under Kamala. You know, to a certain degree, people want to see America become a train wreck for so long that they kind of want the train wreck to be calculated, you know? Pay attention.
In November, and I think that that's what the country is ready for. I encourage everyone watching to go to swampthevote.com and make a plan to vote.
I love that line. Well, she's got a lot of long friendships.
Kamala Harris was asked that question on Univision last week, and she said that he loves his family.
There you go. Yeah, they're trying.
Maybe came up with one thing.
Danielle, thank
you, Danielle.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
So that's interesting. Shout outs to Fox News, fair use. Everybody's going in on this shit. Hold on. I know this girl, she claims to be like a conservative now, but when she first got on YouTube, she was a feminist. Oh, I know Candace Owens is gonna have a field day too. So let's take a look.
She was trying to make this interview shorter. She was going to show up late. They told him, you know, instead of 25 minutes, let's make it 20 minutes. She was filibustering the whole time. We're going to see if the business is true. Let's watch.
Madam Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And
we should have done a word salad rule. New rule, Bill Maher, new rule. If she gets into word salad or says something that is completely discombobulated, you also have to drink. And we just heard it there. Let me replay what she just said in response to being asked about it.
Copied. We've been saying this for like the past 4 months on Player Talk Radio. But okay. We already know she's gonna get to word salad and pop words. So everybody's taking the rule. Okay, I got it. All right, let's go.
Immigration
into the country over the last 3.5 years.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have.
It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. Okay, guys.
That's not word salad.
She just meant to say it's a discussion that people want to rightly have, not a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. But I digress.
And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
estimate
immigration
of
system.
I am speaking. Y'all remember that?
6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on.
I think she cackled when she said I was trying to answer that question. So.
Oh, you can't be that sensitive to the rules kicking in. We're going to be drunk really fast.
We're going to be smashed.
On to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities
All right, let's see
Act.
what you guys are saying in the chat. Make sure y'all hit the subscribe button before you hit the poll. 360 votes. 20% says, the question is, who will win the election? Right? 20% says Kamala, so she's coming back up. Unanimously, 67% says Trump. 3% says Cornel West. He's coming back up. And 10% says Kanye West. Y'all are crazy. All right, let's try to get at least 400 people to hit the poll. Make sure you guys subscribe before you hit the poll. On the road to 5K. Let's get the 4K quickly. Let's get it.
The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the.
Yes, ma'am. He should have let her finish, but then again, he knew she was going to get into word salad.
Finish responding, please.
But
you have to let me finish.
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising.
Okay.
This is a very fine line you have to walk if you're Brett Baier. And it's very interesting because we know she's sort of in the lion's den as it pertains to media hits. She's been doing very friendly hits, the caller daddies and the Charlemagnes and this, that, and the other. So now she's in the Fox News den. You have to be respectful in the questionings, in the questions that you're going through with her, without coming off as you're being like too combative or trying to attack her, because she was gracious in granting you this interview and coming to sit down with you. So you don't want to make it look like you're steamrolling her. But at the same time, with her sort of filibustering, trying to change up the time, he has a lot of points that he wants to hit on many given issues. So it's kind of tough to think about how you're going to navigate talking to a person who's trying to evade the question while also trying to hit as many marks as you possibly can. I would be nervous as all get out to be having his job, but so far, so good. We're going to see how combative it gets, because I've been seeing a lot of people on the left saying he was really combative and constantly interrupting her. So we'll see if that holds true.
And I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system.
I was thinking about that, your mom. The Democrats have been in for 12 years. 12 years. They've had they've been in for more than a decade. They got a 12-year run. We just had a Republican for 4 years. Let's go.
Put more resources, getting more judges. What we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings. What we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border.
I'm going to call a drink on that for lying, that she was trying to fix the problem at the border on day one. Okay. We've got border problems, the likes of which we haven't seen in a very, very long time. And mind you, on day one, they were, rolling back all these Trump.
Kamikaze in the building. What's going on, player? Bollywood babble. Bollywood babble. My guy.
Executive orders that protected our southern border, which led to this massive influx of illegal immigration. So I don't know if this was a problem she was trying to solve on day one or a problem that she was trying to create on day one.
That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people.
So this is the first time I've ever seen or heard people putting these deaths, especially after he played her that clip. Now they're putting these deaths, these immigration killings and these deaths on Kamala. So they're trying to say she got blood on her hands.
It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President.
Drink. That's a common Kamala catchphrase, talking point, where she goes back and says, I've already done this, in my time and in my career. I already did this in San Francisco.
A couple
prosecuted
of things.
Trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem.
She's the one that I usually go after. But you know what's funny? When she first got here, she was a staunch feminist, and she done grifted like 3 times. But let's go.
Problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election,
I'm taking light sips, ladies and gentlemen. Your girl is a lightweight.
This is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants.
Right, LQ, we pointed that out. And it's like, take a shot every time she says Trump or leaves it back to Trump.
The country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly,
love that they are so prepared for everything that she's going to say. The good thing about interviewing Kamala Harris is that she sticks to talking points. This was actually addressed in her interview with Charlemagne the God, where he says a lot of people feel like you're scripted. You're sticking to these talking points that you consistently throw out.
Points and what she gonna say. They can anticipate her response. So you mean to tell me when she becomes the president, the other countries ain't gonna play? Man, they gonna toy with America. That's the best time. You want to take down a bear? Take it down when a bird's leading a bear, not when the bear is leading the bear.
And she said, I call that discipline. Well, the good thing about your discipline is that people are very well studied in where you're going to go in your answer on any given question. So they're prepared to fact check you immediately after you say something that is incorrect. And she's gone and skated through a lot of this campaign without being fact checked at all. We watched that in her presidential debate with Donald Trump, where he was fact checked on every occasion they possibly could, and she got absolutely nothing. And she's been skirting by, knowing that that's going to be the case. Not today, baby. Not today.
Back to the original premise. Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you,
before she answers this question, another brilliant move on behalf of Fox News. Fox News has a certain connotation to it. It's seen as very right-wing. It's labeled as white supremacist, white nationalist, whatever. If you have the opportunity to interview someone like Kamala Harris on Fox News, and you know that a ton of people are going to be tuning in, and they're going to be looking for those weak points in Fox News where it comes off like they're attacking her or they're pushing an ultra-right conservative message. You want to maintain a neutral ground. So Brett is sticking to his papers. He's sticking to so that he can lay out his case without it seeming like he's putting any of his own personal bias into it or any bias that you would.
Right. But see what he's doing, though. I'm not even gonna lie. He's not letting her answer the questions, but he knows she's about to get into the word salad. So he's trying to stop her before she gets into a spiel. Because psychologically what she's doing is she's taking in the question and flipping it. She's spinning it. So Either he's cutting her off, he's too antsy, or he knows what she's doing.
Typically associate with Fox News. And it's great that they are allowing sort of other people, other quotes and other sources to tell the story. And he is just functioning as a neutral.
Hold on, y'all. Okay. All right. Hold on, y'all. My bad for the quality. We should be back. Hold on, y'all.
I think
An apology.
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
Drink, blaming Donald Trump for an issue she created. Let's do that again. So there you have it. I mean, she's going to lean on this at every opportunity she gets. Meanwhile, like the family members of these girls who have had their lives taken are at Trump rallies. They're speaking to our leadership and blaming this current administration for the deaths of their daughters. So I don't know how much you're going to do, Kamala, in trying to blame Trump for that.
Ensure that no future.
Well, I mean, let me tell y'all something. Trump has become like a scapegoat word. So it's like, even if people know you're going to blame Trump for it, it's still like a free hall pass for everybody. It's still like a free hall pass for everybody, because you want to know why? Most people don't have the balls to check you on that, because then people are gonna be like, "Oh, so you mean you're supporting Trump?" You know, so there's a lot of people that probably want her to stop mentioning him, but guess what? They're not gonna check her on that because it's a free hall pass, and they're gonna come off like they're supporting Trump. So she can get points just for the attempt, because it's not going to set her back. So she can blame everything on Trump at this point.
Harm would occur. And this election in
y'all hit the subscribe button before you hit the poll, y'all.
20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Genius.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
Ooh, it makes you kind of tear up a little bit. I mean, it's so awful. I'm already like imagining what it must be like to go through that with your daughter, and then in the middle of that be thrust into political controversy and be asked to make a statement about that. And it seems like she's impassioned enough to go ahead and do that and appear before our leadership, while still sitting in the pain of losing her daughter, has to address the policies that she believes caused it in front of a room of leaders who, in looking at them, you can kind of say some of you are responsible, like the establishment that exists right now are responsible for the loss of my daughter. And here I am addressing you after this massive loss while I'm currently a grieving mother to tell you to change these policies so that other people's daughters don't have their lives taken. And a wonderful thing for Fox News to allow her to be on air and to show her video, to let her speak about it, because it's different when you have somebody like Brett Baier explain this is what the mother of a 12-year-old who I believe was brutally raped and then murdered. Okay. This is what she said. And you can sort of read that quote off the paper, or you can allow that mother to speak for herself. And that is extremely powerful.
It's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss.
Sincerely. Let me get night bottle coffee.
But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual.
Even if you felt deeply within your soul that you are not personally responsible for this 12-year-old girl's death, even if that's truly what you felt, which we know Kamala doesn't feel that way. She knows what she's responsible for. She's actively hopping on air and lying right now to the American people. But even if you felt, I'm being wrongfully convicted in the death of this 12-year-old girl, why not, as a person who is still alive, as a person who is about to be ushered in possibly to the biggest position of leadership in this country, say, you know what, for any ounce of this girl's death that I'm responsible for, I am 100% apologetic, and I take ownership over that. That's what a real leader would do, regardless of how you feel. If it is the general sentiment that the general population believes that you're responsible for this 12-year-old girl's death, you should look internally and think about why that is, and take some ownership and take some responsibility. And still, she beats around the bush. She skirts the question. She fails to personally apologize to this mother who has lost her child. Unbelievable. And we think that this person should be the president of the United States.
Who does not want to participate in solutions.
That's fully believable.
Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer?
In all
Blaming
fairness,
Trump.
I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Except you rolled back a bunch of executive orders, and you spent so much time not going to the border. In fact, when you were interviewed and told that you had not been to the border, you responded, and I haven't been to Europe. I don't see where we're going with this question. So clearly somebody didn't care about the issues until it became time for, an election where you have to claim to care about these issues. She was the one responsible for the border, and this is what we're dealing with on the other end of it. And it is not just death and destruction. It is drugs. It is crime. It is people taking housing away from Americans, people taking government resources away from Americans. And this is not to blame illegal immigrants who are trying to come here for better opportunities and a better life. It is just to say we have to have an immigration system in place. And as of late, we do not. And under this Biden-Harris administration, emphasis on the Harris part of that, quadrupling our numbers of illegal immigration. And now she's going to say we're working on the issue to bring it back down. Conveniently, they're working on it as she's campaigning to be the president of the United States.
Well,
that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90 plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support.
Now, what I've said, a minute ago, right? And what I've mentioned and hinted towards on the last show, and other people talked about this before too, but I already knew this was the case. Joe Biden undermines Kamala. He's not even really supporting her like that, even though he's the president. Like, he undermines her. Like he can't stand her. So he sits down. That's a joke, by the way. Somebody's supposed to laugh. But anyway, he can't stand her. He doesn't fuck with her like that. So this is funny.
Support. They want support.
Thank you, Grant.
And that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care.
The smart thing they could have done, and I think would have landed harder, is to play video clips of her actually saying this to her, so that she actually...
Amala. Oh, yes, he does. Oh, yeah, this is a slick man. Oh, yes, he does.
She has to contend with her own voice. The American people have to hear the voice that she had a year ago, 6 months.
He played one good one. I said, damn. Got me there.
Ago, a month ago, a week ago, and then hear her now try to cover up those issues. I think that would have been far more powerful than hearing him say it.
Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate.
Sorry, that is a Kamala Harris catchphrase. I will follow the law, okay? When she gets called out for doing something that is clearly deeply impacting the American people, our fellow citizens, and she gets asked what she's going to do to change this, she says, I will follow the law.
Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So I will follow the law. Now, you would have seen a micro expression on her face right then when she wasn't expecting to be re-asked the question in a different way, and her only answer that she has as one of her scripted talking points is, I will follow the law.
UFO Kamikaze said if she was Willie Brown's side piece, we know she would have done anything for Trump back then. Ooh, you going there, UFO? She sounds burdened by what may have been that she hopes we will never discover. Which one of y'all said we don't need a president that sucked the dick before in office? Because that was brutal. That was uncalled for. Which one of y'all said that?
So in a moment there, she was thinking, do I answer with the same thing that I just said 2 seconds ago and come off as scripted, which is a valid criticism that I'm receiving after every single interview I do? Or do I try to give a different play on that answer? And she attempted to give a different play on that answer. Instead of follow the law, she said they would follow the federal laws. Awesome.
Decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people.
And then I abandoned all of those values as soon as I get any sort of meaningful form of leadership in this country. This is always what she does. I'm the only one who's ever done this. As an attorney, I did this. In San Francisco, I did this. Okay, you can talk about how you did it. Why aren't you doing it now?
And cross
real quick, Kamala, she also mentioned, I saw this on X just before we went live. This is from Mike Gonzalez. An interesting thing about Kamala is that she bragged about this interview. She bragged about prosecuting the Guadalajara cartel. That's interesting, as it dissolved in the 1980s, years before Harris became a prosecutor. She also mentioned that she has not decriminalized border crossings as vice president, but the CBP-1 app affected.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, Mike. Like, I'm mad that they're like, oh, I'm gonna make marijuana legal, and then I'm gonna. Why do they keep putting the face of marijuana as black people? Like, imagine I bring out Garth Brooks. Well, he's going through some shit right now, but imagine I bring out Ozzy Osbourne and I want to make heroin legal, and I bring back slavery or some shit. Like, this is the dumbest shit ever. Yeah, we're gonna give you blacks jobs and we're gonna make marijuana legal. We know you like your weed. Like, what? And black people need to stop with that bullshit. Stop being identified by drugs. Clean up your damn image. This ain't 2001 no more.
Effectively did that, and they're flying people into the country. They've just created this temporary protected status, which is essentially the decriminalization of crossing the border. So I think we might have to take a couple more sips on those.
Yep, I think that's drink for a lie or lies. My goodness.
Shout outs to Hemi Bullet. Hey, look, we got two things in common. Barracuda, Hemi. What's going on?
It's gracious.
With the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally, and I will do that.
Mopar or no car?
That work as vice president.
Okay, we've spent 10 minutes and 30 seconds on the border. I think that's plenty of time. I know that is the primary issue for I think many who are going to be voting in this election cycle, but we need to hammer her on so many other things, so we better be moving on soon. Brett is brat, by the way. Tweeted that out after I saw that. Brett is brat. What are we talking about? Kamala is brat. Brett is brat for this.
I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed.
Fucking hell.
You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
Now, I need this fact checked. I need to know whether or not what she's saying is true, that this was allowed during the Trump administration in any way, shape, or form. Regardless, we know that in the past 3.5, 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, there have been many laws rolled out to protect gender transitions and gender transition surgeries, and to have your taxpayer dollars fund people who are undergoing these gender transition surgeries, which is never something that the American taxpayer should have to pay for under any circumstance, and especially the circumstance of somebody being an inmate in prison. And not to mention, he could really hit her hard here and say, even if these were policies that were put forth, I guess, during the Trump era, or that Trump was allowing in the background without addressing, they have done significant damage to women, the definition of women, women's spaces in their whole Title IX rewrite, and all these different things that they've rolled out. And we cannot deny that this is an issue that has grown on at an exponential rate while she has been in leadership as the vice president of the United States.
I did just pull this up, Amala, this is Tiana Lowe on X, who's a columnist for the DC Examiner. She says, Kamala Harris is lying again. The Trump administration fought a criminal suing for the taxpayers to pay for a transgender surgery. Right. No surgeries ever occurred under the Trump administration. It was the Biden-Harris administration that settled.
Oh my gosh. So
guess we got to take another
We got a drink. Wow. It's not convenient.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition.
Well, you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
And no surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Please, and let's.
But that's what I was saying earlier. I knew it was for the military. I knew we did it for the military because they were trying to use the military benefits in doing it. But she's saying she's going to use prison to do it. So a lot of people are going to go to prison for prostitution and then get the surgery. That's all. It's a loophole. And the Dems been doing that for a long time. They create loopholes. You dig?
not emphasize how much money is spent on ads and marketing during this election cycle, because baby girl, you have millions of dollars behind you from some of the largest elites in our world, in our news media, in our entertainment, in banking, anything, you name it. She's got billions of dollars behind her. So
whereas
so it's like, okay, I can't afford the surgery, so what you do is you go to jail and then you go get the surgery and come out.
Yes, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote.
If it's quite remote, then why were you referencing it? Why were you using as, your own platform to say that you are going to help with people getting taxpayer funded gender transition surgeries? If it's such a remote, minute issue, then why were you talking about it?
And then we got to go over on the next show because we're about to get up out of the building. I appreciate everybody that hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. I want you guys to be here for that show. They're saying that she helped put, who was it, Michael Jackson, or did she help put somebody big in jail? Kamala. So we're gonna fact check that. We're gonna go through that. It's player talk.
And why were you saying this was going to be some progressive thing that you were going to usher forward in the clip that we literally just watched of you saying it?
And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American
we'll
people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite.
This is another talking point. I don't know if we can drink for all those that she's just used. She's used them quite a bit there, but a brilliant redirect on her part.
Oh, Big Juggle, shut the fuck up, nigga. I'm talking about a video that I saw. It was a video, I briefly saw it before I went live. Shut up. Shut up and subscribe, nigga, because you ain't gonna do nothing but sit in the chat and talk anyway. Shout outs to analysts. Shout outs to everybody in the building. Y'all hit the like button, support the show, subscribe. Let's go.
Parts to just move away from it, talk about what you're doing, talk about the positive things that are going to impact people, because at the end of the day, this whole trans thing as it relates to the general population is quite small if we're looking at the numbers. She's right about that, but you can press her on the fact that she felt the need to address it and she felt the need to advocate for taxpayer funded gender transition surgeries. So she's moving and redirecting, and that's a smart move for her.
Inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as president of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward. And they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country.
Would you call that a new generation of leadership, guys? Had to drink for that one.
My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of
Look at them being messy. Look at them being messy. But listen, y'all, it's Player Talk Radio. I am your gracious host. What's going on, Rainwater? Good to see you. Good morning. I am your gracious host, DJ Kuda, right back at the helm of today's show. I want you guys to hit the subscribe button. We are going to go live again. I need you guys to support the show. Hit the Cash App at $PTV 888. That's $PTV 888. My bad, y'all. I got a lot going on. Yeah, I don't got my microphone with me, so it's a little bit noisy in the background. But thank you guys for duking it out with me. That's $PTV 888. You know, it's niggas blowing the whistles. So y'all hit the like button. Support the channel. What's going on, Ricky? What's going on, Norton? Shout outs to Walter B. Y'all hit the subscribe button. D Rich, what's going on? All right, we'll be right back. It's Player Talk Radio. Let's look at the poll. 547 votes. Trump winning at 70%. Who will win the election? You guys got Trump winning at 70%. Kamala at 18%. Cornell at 2%. And Kanye West at 9%. It's Player Talk Radio. I am your gracious host, DJ Kuda. We out. Peace.